Hi everyone, my name is Meredith McCory and today I'm presenting the Extreme Makeover for NU 713, Organizational and Systems Leadership for the Advanced Practice Nurse. Here are the table of contents we'll be covering, including learning outcomes, an example of miscommunication in the workforce, theme of conversation, conversation organization, patterns, innovation, changing the story, and the extreme makeover. The learning objectives we'll be covering also is how to identify miscommunication in the workplace, understanding patterns of relating, patterns of meaning, being able to identify ways of talking, listening, and being mindful, how to facilitate innovation in our own workplace, and how to identify ways to change the communication. An example of miscommunication in my workplace is one evening, the emergency department was extremely busy. EMS called with patient report about an individual involved in a motor vehicle collision with stable vital signs and was ambulatory at the scene. Since vital signs were stable and the patient was ambulatory, a non-trauma room was prepared in which I was assigned. When the patient arrived, however, the triage nurse was with another patient and the ambulance was placed directly into the room. EMS then went to the charge nurse for that evening and she signed for the patient without visually assessing. I was busy in another patient's room getting that patient stabilized, so several minutes went by before I went into the room, finding the patient completely packaged in a C-collar and backboard, altered, and having several lacerations to the head. Well, I immediately called for help. The MD arrived to the room and we immediately began to stabilize the patient. A CT of the head was obtained and that revealed bilateral subdural hematomas and a subarachnoid hematoma. The MD for that evening began the transfer process to a trauma center. How did this communication occur? EMS report from the get-go, improper placement of the patient in the ER, a lack of assessment by the triage nurse and or charge nurse, a lack of communication to me, the receiving nurse, and we also need to include burnout and staff shortages. So let's go over organization as a conversation. So within that umbrella, there are two areas we need to speak of: pattern of relating and pattern of meaning. Pattern of relating forms the culture within the organization. It's how people within that organization interact with one another. Patterns of meaning is the theme. It's the mission statement of the organization, and that forms the overall shape of the organization and medical center. So let's break down patterns of relating. There are two patterns of relating. It's talking and listening. It's how we talk to each other and it's how we listen. So as an individual, we're going to adjust the ways in which we talk and listen that's appropriate for the conversation we're having. It is important that we are an active listener and give the speaker our undivided attention so that person feels valued to the organization. It's a collaborative process and it's important that we remain active. So let's go over patterns of meaning and making meaning. So patterns of meaning is the organization's vision and mission statement. For my facility, it's to fulfill President Lincoln's promise to care for him who have borne the battle and for his widow and his orphan by serving and honoring men and women who are America's veterans. Our mission and vision is also patient-centered care and it involves innovation. So let's go over ways of listening, talking, and being mindful. So talking reinforces values and encourages innovation and change, whereas listening increases the quality of an organization. Mindfulness is where we're present in the moment and we're self-aware of our actions and how they impact others. So let's cover innovation. There are different ways of speaking that lead to misunderstandings. It's those misunderstandings that can lead to innovation and change within the organization. A key characteristic in innovation is building and maintaining trust within an organization. This in turn leads to employee engagement and improved retention. So let's start changing the story of our miscommunication. Let me remind you, the EMS called, report, the patient was ambulatory with stable vital signs. Once that patient was placed in a room, which bypassed both triage and the charge nurse for assessment, it was found that that patient was altered and had some subdural hematoma and some head trauma. So let's look again at organization and conversation, patterns of relating, patterns of meeting. We want to improve horizontal communication among the staff, not only in a single disciplinary, but on a multidisciplinary level, and that includes external customers like our patients or EMS. Whereas patterns of meeting needs to be more focused. Staff needs to remember of providing patient-centered care and remembering we're providing a service to men and women that have both served in the military. Building trust not only within the organization but to external services impact the ED like EMS. So let's look at patterns of relating. It's using practical judgment by actively listening to improve safety and overall care of the patients that we serve. Also, self-evaluating interactions, either whether or not you're having communication with the staff as a whole and keeping them informed of changes throughout the department will increase trust and empowerment, thus leading to retention. Let's look at patterns of meeting. The emphasis needs to be on the mission of the facility, encouraging innovation not only within our service, but facility-wide, and providing opportunities for discussion through debriefings and regular staff meetings. It's about engagement of the staff and involvement. Talking, listening, and being mindful. Talking can reinforce the positive changes by evaluating patterns of communication to make a more productive impact. Active listening without distractions can improve innovation and engagement with the staff. And being mindful of where you are and having self-reflection in the present and how your actions and your words that you use can impact other staff members. So innovation, we want to create an environment that's indicative for change and overall improvement of our facility. We want to improve the overall theme, and that being a forefront for the services that we provide. And we need to remember that innovation is key, not only with our veteran staff, but with novice nurses too. So when we look at our situation of what happened, what occurred that evening in the ED, we don't need to be afraid to ask questions at EMS. If the patient was restrained, if there was airbag deployment, the condition of the vehicle. And we need to encourage that they actually call back if there's changes in the condition so we can get that patient to appropriate care. Because what should have happened is that patient should have directly gone to a trauma center instead of being delayed, because we have that golden hour of trauma where early interventions can greatly increase the overall outcome of quality and safety with those subset of patients. We also need open communication between triage and the charge nurse and the receiving nurse. The receiving nurse needs to feel respected, that they know what's going in their room. And this leads to overall improvement of care, not only with this particular patient, but with other patients that present to the emergency department. Okay, here are my references. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.